Good evening. We want to welcome you to Sherlock University. We've got an exciting night tonight. And first, I'd like to introduce to you Diamond Mark Levesque. He has the privilege and honor to be able to introduce our speaker tonight. Mark?
Well, thank you, Karen. We have a rare treat for you today because we are bringing to you one of the top John Maxwell Certified Trainers in the world. I'm just back from Paraguay, where he was at an international conference. I saw footage of that conference. It was a massive number of people that attended. They're changing the culture in that whole country by using Maxwell's leadership development principles. Chris has conducted leadership training and executive coaching with many of the top companies in the world. Here are just a few: Pfizer, Cisco Systems, Berkshire Hathaway, which is a Warren Buffett company, NASA, Humana Health, Fortune Builders, and the cast of Flip This House. And so it's my pleasure to introduce to you Chris Robinson, leadership trainer extraordinaire. Chris, over to you.
All right. Well, thanks a lot, guys. I appreciate the opportunity to be here on with you tonight. And just to honor it, you talked a little bit about Paraguay coming from there. Phenomenal time in Paraguay. We trained over 16,000 people in over a week's time period. It was 250 coaches from around the world that came into the country of Paraguay to help transform that country by values. So we had a phenomenal time there. Made an incredible impact on that country, as we will soon do another. And so what we're going to also do is we just got back from Barbados as well. Last week I was in Barbados. I had a keynote there where I was actually the keynote speaker for an event called the Week of Excellence, and we had a phenomenal time there, made a great impact. And so I have just had the privilege of being in 2 countries in the last 3 weeks, and then have the opportunity to head down to Orlando for the International Maxwell Conference here in about a week and a half or so. So a lot of great stuff going on. Just thankful to be a part of the John Maxwell team and underneath his leadership, of which I'm going to teach to you tonight. Well, last month we talked about, 2 laws. We started off talking about the law of influence. It says that the true measure of leadership is influence, nothing more, nothing less. And so through that one, we talked about, the 5 myths of leadership. We talked about the management myth, the entrepreneur myth, the knowledge myth, the pioneer myth, and of course, the old one that gets us all is the position myth, thinking that leadership is about a position or a title, and there could be nothing further from the truth. Main questions we want to ask ourselves or understand that followers ask is that there's 3 questions that all followers ask. Number 1 is, do you care for me? Number 2, can you help me? And number 3, can I trust you? So you want to make sure that as you're bringing new people into the organization, that you get a resounding yes to those 3 questions. You want people to know that you care for them, that you can help them, and that they can trust you. So we talked about the law of influence. We talked about the law of process, which says that leadership develops daily, not in a day. Leadership develops daily, not a day. And so we talked about the difference between an event and a process, and how you can grow over a period of time. Tonight we're going to take it a little bit further. We're going to talk about the law of navigation and the law of addition. Now I'm going to touch on both of these tonight, and then next month we'll continue to go on and do 2 more principles each month until we complete the 21 laws. So it's an honor to be with you guys here today. Let's jump into the law of navigation. The law of navigation is really simple. I love the law of navigation. It says that anyone can steer a ship, but it takes a leader to chart a course. And so one of the main things that we will want to do, I apologize here, is, we've got you in the law of process. Sorry, we covered the law of the lead and the law of influence. This week we need to cover the law of process. So we'll start with the law of process, then we'll go into the law of navigation. But the law of process says that leadership develops daily, not in a day. Now, I love this because a lot of people believe that, success comes instantly. You look at some of the top producers inside of your organization, and, one of the things that you'll say is, well, how did I get there? And I can tell you this, it didn't happen overnight. It can happen fast, but it doesn't happen overnight. You have to realize that it's going to take work in order for you to achieve inside of this program. It's going to take work for you to develop as a leader. It's going to take work for you to develop as an individual inside this company. It's going to take you work to develop as a husband or a wife or a parent. It takes time. It doesn't happen overnight. You see, when I look at this, I think about the phrase or the quote that says that champions don't become champions in the ring. They're merely recognized there. They're merely recognized there. And so I think about my wife. She's an incredible CrossFitter. Okay, she loves CrossFit. If you're not familiar with CrossFit, you know, it's a great, rigorous exercise routine that people go through, and they have competitions often. You know, my wife, she competes about every 4 months. She's pregnant now, so not in any competitions coming up soon. But every 3 months, she's in a competition. Now, I like to go to these competitions and see her compete. Now, growing up an athlete, every single time I get inside of the gym there, I look at this, I'm jumping up and down and saying, that's what I want to do. I want to compete. I want to compete. But here's the thing, is that, yeah, sure, I want to compete, but I don't want to show up at 5 a.m. in the morning to work out 6 days a week. I don't want to get up every single day to put in the work that she does in order to show up that day to compete. So, yes, I can have the feeling that day. Yes, I can feel great in that environment. But if I'm not paying the price to get there, it's just not going to happen. You see, we have to realize that everything that we do, there's a period to it. And we have to look at it and liken, you know, anything that we do to farming. You know, when you come to a farm, there's 3 different phases of anything to grow. You know, it's seed, it's time, and then there's a harvest. There's seed, there's time, and then there's a harvest. But what we often want to forget, or what we want to leave out, is the time. You see, if I came to any of you guys' front yard this week and I had some good corn seed, the very best corn seed that I could possibly find, and this was the finest hybrid corn that was supposed to grow the best corn on the planet, and I come to your house, I throw it out your front yard, I throw a little water on it, and I say, come back the next day, and I demand on your door, where's the corn? Now, every single person on this phone will look at me like I'm crazy. If I come back a week later, I would say to you, where is my corn? You would say, well, Chris, you know, it takes time, but no, I have the right seed, I have the best seed, and I want my harvest. I've paid for this seed, I've waited some time for this seed, I've waited a day, I've waited a week, I come back 3 weeks later, and I'll start to begin to ask you, where is the harvest? You see, everything has a process. It's seed, it's time, it's harvest. So if you get inside the organization and it's been a week, don't panic. It's been a month, don't panic. It's been a year, don't panic. All right, because what you have to understand is that it's seed, it takes time, and then there's a harvest. And when we think about the time, I mean, realistically, you have to look at the difference between average and above average people. You see, average people, you know, their story looks just like the above average person, and their story looks just like yours and mine. Our story looks like every successful person. It looks the same. There's 3 parts. It's dream, struggle, success. Dream, struggle, success. But the difference between the average and the above average is that the above average can hold on to the struggle long enough until the success comes, until the dream comes. But it takes time in between there. You just don't have the dream and go immediately to the success. It's dream, struggle, success. As the seed is thrown in your front yard, guess what? That seed has to come through that ground. It has to be watered. It has to be nurtured. And then through a struggle, it comes to the ground and eventually begins to grow to where we see the harvest. We have to understand that everything that we do is a process. You know, we can't expect to be great at anything the very first time that we do it. You know, we can't expect to be, you know, the best, you know, when we first start out doing something. And we have to understand that it's a process, but you have to learn to love the process. You have to learn to love the process. I know that you hear that all the time, but when you fall in love with learning, when you fall in love with the process, when you fall in love with, hey, this is just a part of it, I know this is just going to be a part of the story, there's a big difference which allows you to continue to grow. You see, there's 5 phases of leadership, or 5 phases for anything that you're doing. You see, I love this. It says the phase 1 is that I don't know what I don't know. I don't know what I don't know. This is the old phrase that ignorance is bliss. And if you got a good attitude, you can just continue on and have a pretty good time, and things will go well. All right? But you want to be able to go on. You want to be able to move, and you just don't know what you don't know. That's the first phase. The second phase is that I know that I need to know. Now, this is a lot higher phase of leadership or awareness, because now you know exactly what it is that you need to know. I know what I need to know. The third phase is that I know what I don't know. I know what I don't know. Now, this is really getting good. You know exactly what it is that you don't know. Then the fourth phase is that I know and grow, and it starts to show. I know and grow, and it starts to show. This is where the weeds become, the little corn begins to come out of the grass, and now you begin to see a little bit of fruit from all the labor that you put into actually coming along and watering and being nurtured and growing. And so it begins to show. But then the fifth phase is that you simply go because of what you know. That's when it becomes automatic. That's when you don't even have to think about it. That's when you just continue to just move forward, and you can really see the fruit of what it is that you're doing. So you want to make sure that you understand that when you begin anything new, that it's a process. It doesn't just happen, and you're going to go through phases. It doesn't matter if you're learning how to use a new computer program. It doesn't matter if you're learning a new process at work. These are the 5 phases that you're going to go through, and that you go through as a leader. So how do we move on from that? So what we have to understand is that there's really a separation. All right. So what we're on tonight is an event. What we're on tonight is an event, but there's a difference between an event versus a process. And when we're talking about becoming a leader and talking about a process, this isn't something that you can just read one book and you're good. Not just come to one event and you're okay. You know, it's a matter of going through the process that's really going to make a difference for you. You see, let me share with you the difference between an event and the process. You see, an event is going to encourage a decision. You know, whenever you go to any type of event, it's going to encourage you to make a decision, make a change. You know, you're going to come to a fork in the road and say, hey, you know what? I've got to make a choice here today that I'm either going to do this or I'm not going to do this. I'm going to make changes in my life, or I'm not going to make changes in my life. I'm going to stay the same. But when you're at an event, it's going to encourage that. So tonight is really like an event, but we're trying to convert it into a process by not just doing this in a one-time shot. You see, each and every single month, I want to encourage you to go further in your leadership development, encourage you to go further in your reading and your personal growth and development, but I need you to make a decision to do that during an event. It's an event that's going to motivate people. You know, as you guys do the annual and quarterly events for Sherlock, what you want to do is these events motivate you. You get around other like-minded people. You see other people that are getting results, and you want to get out there and do it, and that's what these events are for. That's why it's so important for you to show up to the event. Often, you've got to show up to the event. There is a direct correlation between the number of times that people show up to events and the income that they're making versus the people that don't show up to the event. There's a direct correlation between that. You know, I think about just being a part of John Maxwell's team. I'm headed now in a week and a half here to my 10th live event training for John Maxwell team. My 10th. I haven't missed a single training since the program has been open since March of 2011. Why do I keep going back? It's an event that motivates me. It allows for me to get around other people that are like-minded and growing, and it encourages me to continue to make decisions to grow and help people. It's an event. The event is a calendar issue, though. It's pretty much, we know that tonight on March 3rd, 2016, that there's a call at 7 p.m. Central. You know, it's on the calendar. It's pretty simple. You could come and put on your headphones and you can listen in, and what's going to happen is you could take no notes. You could take a couple notes. You could be driving right now. You could just pretty much block me out mentally if you want. You see, it's a calendar issue. It doesn't require anything of you but to show up to the event. The event's going to challenge you. The event's going to challenge you. You know, as you come on here, you know, my hope is that you get new thoughts, new ideas, new feelings about who it is that you're becoming. So I want to challenge you during this event, but see, the event is easy. The event's easy. You see, there's no direct accountability here for what it is that you're learning here today. There is, you know, you could just, again, come on and get off. Go about your business, right? The event is easy. The process is a little different. You see, when we're talking about a process, we're talking about your development. You see, oftentimes we get this confused of how fast can we get to diamond? How fast can we get to black diamond? You see, the question isn't and shouldn't be how fast can you get there, but the question should be how far can you go? We fall in love with the process. What happens is you fall in love with how far can you go. You don't set a quit date. You do it until. You don't say, well, if this whole Sherlock thing doesn't work out by summertime, I'm going to quit. I'm going to do something else. No. You say, hey, I bought into this with 100% expectancy, so I'm not going to be like the 90% that fall to the wayside. I'm going to be like the 10% that says that I'm going to do this until it works because I believe in this. I believe in the company. I believe in the leadership. I believe in the process. So I don't care about how long it takes. All I'm concerned about is how far I can go. You see, that's the mindset of the above average versus the average of not how fast can I get there, but how far can I go. And when you're going through a process, it encourages your development. When you go through the process, it matures you. It matures you. You see, going through the process requires time. Going through the process requires reflection. Going through the process requires you to get better and make wiser decisions. But when you go through a process, it's going to mature you. You see, when you go through the process, it's a culture issue, not a calendar issue. Because as you embrace the process, as you embrace how far can you go versus how fast you can go, that then becomes the stride of your culture. It now becomes the mentality of, look, we believe in this company. We know that we've got solid gold here. We're going to do this until it works. We're going to do it until we reach the marks that we want to reach. And then it becomes a culture issue when you begin to embrace the process and you show that as a leader. Now the next person that you bring in realizes, hey, it's a process. They embrace it. It becomes a part of the culture. But we have to embrace the process. The process changes people. The event will challenge you, but when you go through a process will change you. You will be different. See, the thing about the process is that the process is difficult. You see, the process is difficult in the fact that in between the events, something happens. Yes, you go to the events, you feel great, you come back on fire, you're ready to rock and roll, you're ready to go to the next level, and then you walk home and the process hits you. You don't have the support from the spouse that you need. The family members really don't believe in you. The friends that you thought were going to be the quickest to buy into what it is that you were doing want nothing to do with you or it. You're not getting the downloads as quickly as you'd like to get them. You're not seeing the income that you thought that you said, and you're not moving as fast as those that had just come in from another country. I mean, they don't have the means to and the resources that you have, but yet somehow it's taken off like wildfire in their small little country, in some little village, and you're going, how in the world? And you begin to get discouraged in the process after coming out of the event. But the process, if you stick with it, if you embrace it, if you say, not what are they doing over there, but how can I embrace that over there, and how can I take what it is that they're doing? How can I just reach one more person a day? How can I just go out and get one download today? How can I just stick this out another day and know that I can make it to the next event and just keep showing up and keep showing up? And when you keep showing up day by day through the process that gets you to the event sparks the fire, and you're able to continue to get better and mold through the process. but the process is important to everything you do. And so you can't skip out on the process. You can't skip out on the process. There's no way to skip the process. You have to go through it, because if you don't go through it, what you obtain quickly, you lose it, because there's some lessons that you need to learn on the way through the process. You see, in becoming a successful leader, it's a process, and becoming a leader is a lot like investing in the stock market. You know, if you think that you're going to make a fortune in a day, you're not going to be very successful. You know, there's no successful day trading in leadership development. You know, it's what you do day in and day out over the long haul. And you have to remember, it's seed, it's time, it's harvest. Leadership develops daily, not in a day. So a couple different things I want you to do is I want you to get intentional about your plan for growth. How are you growing? How are you growing? You need to be intentional about your plan for growth. A great book that will help you get a guide and a plan for your personal growth by John Maxwell is called The 15 Invaluable Laws of Growth. The 15 Invaluable Laws of Growth. This book is going to give you a layout of how to really plan your own personal development. But if you want to grow as a leader and begin to enjoy the process and learn more about the process, you have to plan for your growth. Not just, hey, is there one webinar tonight, but what are you doing? Are you reading? Are you listening to audios? Are you going to the events? Are you showing up for your weekly calls? Are you showing up for the weekly leadership calls? Are you showing up for this webinar here? Are you going to the international events? Are you going to the cruises? What are you doing for your personal growth? Take time to plan your personal growth. So one of your homework assignments this week for coming into the next month is putting together a plan for your personal growth. And what I want you to do is, if you're listening to this, whether it's live or by recording, I want you to put together that personal growth plan. And I want you to send it to your leader in your upline. Put together your personal growth plan for the year and send that to your upline. That'll let them know that you're serious about growth, and it's going to invoke them to want to help you even more, because why? They know that you're serious with the plan. You know, I want you to think about, you know, your past. Think about really what have you done over the past year that's contributed the most to your growth. You know, should you be doing more of that? You know, I want you to think about the books in the past that have made a phenomenal impact on your life, and should you be doing more of that? You know, what can you be reading? How can you be reading more? But how can you be doing more to grow? Because if you don't grow, your team cannot grow. If you're not growing, your team cannot grow. As we talked about in the law of the lid, we have to understand that you are the lid on your team. You know, if you keep saying to yourself, well, the people that I keep recruiting are terrible. Well, we've got some questions to ask. Could we ponder just for a second that it might just be you? Now, nobody on this phone call, nobody on this recording, but just consider if the level of people that you're bringing in aren't up to the tune that you want to, perhaps you need to increase your lid. So the law of process, I want you to write out a plan for your personal growth. I want you to consider what has contributed the most to your growth over the past year. I want you to think about some of the daily habits that have got you, to your present success. And maybe reach out to your upline and see what are some of their daily habits that help them get success. Because they're doing a process and they know what their process is. So I'd reach out and I would find out what that process is. So law of process says that leadership develops daily, not in a day. So next up, we want to talk about the law of navigation. The law of navigation. The law of navigation says that anyone can steer a ship, but it takes a leader to chart a course. You see, Leroy Imes had a great quote inside the book here. He says that a leader is one who sees more than others see and sees further than others see and who sees before others do. And when we talk about this whole thing of process or navigation, it really requires three things. You see, navigation requires preparation. Navigation requires a vision of the future. And navigation requires reflection of the past. It requires reflection of the past. And so we think about this. You know, we've talked about a little bit about taking time to reflect, but I want to give you a couple of reflection starter kits. All right, when we talk about reflecting, and so we talked about it briefly last week or last month in the law of the lid of taking the time to reflect. But you know, asking ourselves 3 questions daily. You know, what went right? What went wrong? What can we do different? What went right? What went wrong? What can we do differently on a daily basis? And if you do that for the next 7 days, you're going to ensure that you get more productivity just simply by asking those 3 questions. But we have to take that time to reflect. You know, we make automatic decisions over and over and over again without even thinking about it. We can take a good experience and make it a great experience by taking time to reflect. We have to pause and liquidate the gold from the experiences that we have on a daily basis. And so we want to take a look at how do we move forward by taking time to reflect. A great question when you attend an event, whether it's a Sherlock event or a networking event, 3 questions you can reflect on, you know, during that process. Let me give you 3 questions that will help you grow. 3 questions right here that will change the way that you attend events. So 3 questions you need to ask yourself when you attend an event. Again, we're talking about taking time to reflect. The first question is, who did I meet? Who did I meet? I mean, think about it. You've gone to some incredible events. You go and you meet some phenomenal people. You meet some phenomenal people, and yet you do not have any idea who those people are today. So one of the first questions that you need to ask and that you need to write down as soon as you get home or the night of the events is, who did I meet? Who did I meet? If it's a 2-day event, 3-day event, at the end of every night, you need to be writing down, who did I meet? And jotting down some notes about those people. Because we want to make sure that we're following up with them. That may be your next diamond in hand. That may be your next black diamond, but because you didn't take time to think and reflect, you missed out on that opportunity. The second question that you need to ask is, what did I learn? What did I learn? You know, you go to these phenomenal events and you learn some great things, but we have this big, thick notebook of things, and yet we don't go back to the notebook to even see what we wrote in it. We were so excited about it. Ooh, let me write that down, and then we just miss it. It's sitting on the shelf dusty. We've never went back to review it. And so at the end of the event, you want to ask, what did I learn? And then the third question that you want to ask at the end of the event is, what do I need to do? What do I need to do? You see, it doesn't matter if you've just come out of a phenomenal event and everything's great, but you don't take any action on it. So we need to make sure that we're taking action on everything that we do. So how do we do that? We want to ask 3 questions. Who did I meet? What did I learn? What do I need to do? But we need to take time to reflect because we can make a good experience, a great experience, by taking time to reflect. You see, a great navigator, they draw upon that reflective thinking. There's a great book John wrote called How Successful People Think. How Successful People Think. And in that book, there's an entire chapter based on reflective thinking. But when you use reflective thinking, it does a couple different things for you. The first thing that it does is that when you use reflective thinking, it really gives you a true perspective. You know, because a lot of times we can't see things when we're inside the frame, but when we're outside the frame, we can see those things. The second thing that will happen when we draw upon that reflective thinking is that it'll give you emotional integrity to your thought life. It'll give you integrity to your thought life. It'll give you clarity. The third thing that it's going to do is that when you take time for reflective thinking is that it's going to increase your confidence in your decision making. Because you've taken time to think about this in the past, and when you see that situation come again, it's going to allow for you to have confidence in that decision that you're making. Number 4, it's going to clarify the big picture for you. It's going to clarify the big picture for you. And then number 5, you can take a good experience and make it a valuable experience by taking time to reflect. So all good reflectors or all good navigators use what we call the plan ahead process, the plan ahead process. And so it's a full acronym in order to make sure that you're making good decisions. So anytime that you're getting ready to implement anything, you want to plan ahead. And the acronym here for this law of navigation, each letter stands for a different part of the plan. So the P stands for predetermine your course of action. So simply, what is your goal? Where are you going? You know, where are you going and what are you doing? So you have to decide that up front, because if you don't decide that up front, you're just going to kind of drift through life. You're just going to kind of drift, and we don't want you to drift. We want you to figure out and get clear on where it is that you want to go. Because when you get clear on where it is that you want to go, it's easy to get there. It's easy to see that opportunity whenever you're clear on what you want. But see, when you're unclear, this is what I know. This is what I learned from Garrett Gunderson. He said that without clarity in your purpose, you can't tell an opportunity from a distraction. Without clarity in your purpose, you can't tell an opportunity from a distraction. So if you don't know what your predetermined course of action is or where you're going, or clear on what it is that you're trying to achieve, things are going to come at you left and right that you won't be able to tell if it's a distraction or if it really is an opportunity for you. You see, right now there's a predetermined course of action with the Sherlock. You've got the plan, you've got the goal, but yet there's still people in other organizations that are saying, hey, look at this, look at this. This has got this playpen. This is so much easier. This is so much simpler. Is that really an opportunity for you, or is that a distraction? You've got to know. But when you're unclear and you're going through the process, you can't see because you haven't navigated beyond where you are. So you have to predetermine your course of action. The L stands for lay out your goals. Lay out your goals with an S. With an S. You see, because between any goal, there's goals with an S along the way. And so we want to make sure that we're not only just setting a big goal, but we want to set small goals along the way. Because as we reach those small goals, that's breeding our mind for success. And if all we're looking at is the big goal, then oftentimes we get discouraged and we quit. The A means that we need to adjust our priorities. Adjust our priorities. Anytime that you set a brand new goal, you have to adjust your priorities. You can't keep the same routine. You can't keep the same rhythm. You can't keep doing the same things and not adjusting your priorities and expecting a different result. Anytime that you set a new goal, you have to adjust your priorities. You see, we have brand new twins that are going to be here soon, and you know, we've got a new thing in life here. And we've got to adjust our priorities. You see, my number one priority when these two children are born is to keep them alive. And currently right now, my number one priority at night is sleep. When those two children are born, their priority in the middle of the night will be to eat and not to sleep. So if I want to reach my main goal of keeping them alive, I have to adjust my priorities. It doesn't matter what it is, big or small. Anytime that you set a new goal, you have to adjust your priorities. The N means that you need to notify key personnel. Notify key personnel. What does that mean? If it's inside your organization, you need to notify other management. If it's inside your home, you need to notify your spouse, your significant other, whatever the case may be. You need to notify your friends that you hang out with habitually. You need to notify key personnel whenever you're trying to obtain a new goal. What happens is when you're trying to obtain a new goal and you don't notify the key personnel, what happens is people unintentionally block you. When you don't notify the key personnel, what happens is people unintentionally block you. So let's just say that I want to lose some weight. I want to lose 20 pounds, and I'm going to stop eating chips. I know that chips are my problem. I know that chips are my dilemma. And every time that Chuck and I get together, we sit down and have a bag of chips. Now, Chuck and I, every single week, we sit down 4 days a week, and we just eat chips. Now, I make this decision. I don't notify Chuck, and so I go to meet up with Chuck, and I don't tell Chuck that my new goal is not to eat chips. And guess what Chuck has for me? My favorite chips waiting. Now, Chuck's intention is to help me as a friend, but because I didn't notify the key personnel, he has no idea, and he's unintentionally blocking me from my goal that I want to achieve. And so we have to notify key personnel, because if we don't, they unintentionally block us from achieving our goals. The A is that we need to allow time for acceptance. We need to allow time for acceptance. Anytime that we do something new and we're notifying people around us, and even for ourselves, we have to allow time for acceptance. Anytime you make any change inside of your life, you go through a three-step process. It's this: change, conflict, growth. Change, conflict, growth. It doesn't matter how big, how small, no matter what type of change that you make, yourself or those around you will have to go through that three-step process. So what you will want to do is you have to allow time for acceptance. Now Chuck is perplexed. We eat chips 4 days a week, and it's our favorite, has been our favorite for a long time, and now I say I want to quit. Chuck's just not going to believe that. He's just not buying into it. Well, why? He's going to want, well, why are you doing this for? Well, I want to get healthier. I want to do things. And, he's stuck, right? And there's people around you that see that you're doing this now and seeing your growth, but they haven't had that time for acceptance. You're on fire about it, and they have no idea what's going on. They're unintentionally blocking, but it's okay. You have to allow time for acceptance in this plan ahead process. The H stands for head into action. Head into action. Now, you've predetermined your course of action. You've laid out your goals. You've adjusted your priority. You've notified key personnel. You've allowed some time for acceptance, but now you've got to head into action. You can plan as much as you want, but if you do not head into action and you don't get off the Sherlock University just trying to learn, you have to get out there and do. Nothing's going to happen by you watching the videos online. It happens when you get out there and do what the videos are talking about online. You got to get out there and do. You got to head into action. The E in this process is expect problems. Expect problems. Look, this is what I found out about business. Things are going to take twice as long as you anticipate them to take and cost twice as much money as you think that they're going to take. Right? It's just part of the process. We want to expect problems. Now, I'm probably, I would gather to say, and I'm probably one of the most optimistic people on this phone line right now here today. You see, but we have to do this E. Now, I'm not saying become the E person where anytime the organization rolls out something new, you say, hey, I've got the E, let me tell you all the problems, because there's no value in finding the problems. There's zero value in finding problems. There's value in finding solutions. So when you find a problem inside the company or the organization and you say, well I found the problem, there's no value in that. If you want to add value to the company, when you find the problem, bring the whole solution. Not a fragment of the solution, but the whole solution, because this is what I know about business and just life in general. You get paid based upon the problems that you solve. So if you want bigger paychecks, if you want bigger production, you have to solve bigger problems. And so all this does, this E in this process, is this just infuses realism to optimism. So we want to expect problems, but we don't want to camp out there and just say, hey, I've got the E, I've got the E. All right? The A is always point to success. Always point to success. No matter how big or how small, we want to always point to success. Because when we do that, we're beginning to program our minds for success. When we're celebrating the small victories, they snowball into the big victories. When we celebrate, I got 1 download today. Awesome. We celebrate, I got 3 downloads this week. No, it wasn't the number that you wanted to hit, but hey, you were doing something daily. Hey, I reached out to somebody on LinkedIn today. Hey, I did a one-on-one at the coffee house today. I did that. Whatever it is, no matter how big or how small, it doesn't matter. Celebrate that success, because we predetermined our course of action. We laid out our goals along the way, and if we're saying the entire time, well, I'm not at Black Diamond, I'm not at Black Diamond, I'm not at Black Diamond, or we can celebrate those successes along the way and say, hey, I've got 5 downloads this week. I got 5 downloads this week. I got 5 downloads today. You celebrate those successes, and that creates momentum for more successes, not just looking at the big goal and meditate on where you're not. You have to focus on where you are, be thankful for where you are, and celebrate those successes along the way. The D is daily review your plan. Daily review your plan. You see, this is taking a look at the plan daily and saying, okay, I've got to take a look at the map. Most of us have some type of navigation on our phone, or we've used a map before. It doesn't matter, if we put in a destination that we've never been to before and we punch that into the GPS there, something that's interesting is that even though we know where we're watching that navigation, we keep looking at that thing. We know that we've got 100 miles to go, 50 miles to go, 10 miles to go. What happened? We keep looking back at the navigation system saying, are we on track? Are we on track? What happened? We're looking along the way. So as you lay out your personal growth plan, as you lay out your plan for development, you've got to look at that thing daily to make sure that you're on track. You don't just write the plan once and then come back and say 30 days later and say, well, is it working or is it not working? No, you've got to look at the plan daily. Look at the plan daily to make sure that you're on track. And when you do this, this is going to help you navigate your course to success. You see, the law of navigation says that anyone can steer a ship, but it takes a leader to chart a course. So, guys, it's been an honor and a privilege to be here with you guys today. I want to thank you so much for your time. We'll be back next month where we'll talk about 2 more laws. We'll talk about the law of addition and the law of solid ground. Chuck, Mark, it's been an honor to be with you guys. I'll turn it back over to you.
Well, thank you, Chris. We really appreciate your leading this webinar for us and sharing your leadership ability with us. We thank you for covering the law of the process and law of navigation from the Maxwell library. We really appreciate that, and we thank you for sharing your valuable time with us this evening and this day, depending on where you are in the world. And so, again, thank you, Chris, and thank you, everyone, for tuning in. Look to Sherlock University for the recording to share with other individuals, and look forward to the announcement on the next time that Chris Robinson is available to meet with us and share the next 2 laws of the laws of success. And so, again, thank you so much, Chris, and thank you, everyone. Have a great day. Bye-bye.
Thanks a lot. Bye-bye.